Raghu from HDIC's MedTech Incubator hosting the session. So, the two speakers for the day are Dr. Saumini Kumaran, founder of Proteogeny Biotech LLP, and Ms. Anmol Saxena, founder of Ashwa Wearable Technologies. Before moving into the session, I kindly request everybody to go on mute and turn on the mic only when you speak. And since this is a platform for free flow talk and discussion, anybody can raise questions and provide answers or suggestions. Hence, by doing it, let us keep it a free flow one. Moving into the session, I would now like to welcome Dr. Saumini Kumaran to speak on the topic finance related issues during the pandemic. Over to you, ma'am. Ma'am, I think you're on mute. Kindly unmute yourself, ma'am. Ma'am, can you hear us?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible now, ma'am.
So, hello. Good evening, everyone. This is Saumini. Actually, we have started the Protein Biotech LLP in July 2017. So it's almost 3 years now. So this we are actually a biotech service provider. So we do this recombinant cloning, site-directed mutagenesis, and protein expression, purification, and like labeled proteins, and some microbial biological services like 16S rRNA identification, and those kind of services like microbial identification services. So actually, first I started as an incubator in Golden Jubilee Biotech Park. So and then I was there for 1 year in Biotech Park. Then it provided a very good, excellent infrastructure and very nice professional atmosphere. So this has helped me to start this company with a less capital budget. So they have most of the equipments which I needed for my work. So this way it helped me to make my dream come true. So then, but the one drawback is that actually the distance is very far from my house. The Golden Jubilee Biotech Park is situated in Siriseri. I was located in Trivallur, so it's very far for me. So then what I decided is I moved out along with one of my friend. So he has a company and then he has started a lab. So then I co-shared the lab space with him. So and then it was almost a year now, we are together as a company. In this COVID time, I realized that this was the best decision I have taken, because otherwise I feel if I moved out alone means my rent and the EB expenses, everything would have been doubled. So this in this crisis I feel that when you start a company, if it is possible, then we should start along with some people, not as a partnership, because there will be so many factors which are determining the partnership fact, right? So, but more or less like a incubation center, like where we incubate for our company ourselves. Like each company will have their own instruments, and not every company has to buy all the instruments. So, like myself and like the other company, which is called the Immugenix Biosciences, like founded by Dr. Naveen. So he has a good set of what is called the instruments, and then I have bought some instruments. In that way, we can cut the cost also, like this instruments, and like the rent also we share. Like these times, these are very helpful actually, especially for a beginner company with a limited funding possibilities. Like this has helped me a lot. And as such, during the COVID, because my company is basically a laboratory based company, we cannot do much work from home actually. Like because all the things are mostly like lab based experiments. Like only few things like the primer designing and like some sequencing results analysis, those kind of stuff I look home. But what I did during this COVID time is like, because initially I started with the limited number of experiments, like cloning and expression purification. But right now, then this give me a time like to think about what all the other experiments, like which I am like experienced a bit, but not like thinking in terms of business. So I did all those experiments, the protocols, those kind of stuff. Like it gave the time for me to analyze those kind of stuffs. And so a lot of protocols I downloaded, which is like not very what not very tough to say to use as a service. But I didn't think in that aspect initially. So this time I utilized like that in reading like a lot of protocols which can be included in my future thing. Like so this way, like I think like after this crisis, like I can start this kind of experiments also in my company, like the profile, like the experiments profile. And I also like because like even though like I started a company, like the technical skills, maybe I have like good experience technical skills. But when it comes to this business part, like there are a lot of things that I needed like to improve. So like I attended like several courses, like this NPTEL courses with the improvement in the soft skills and all these things. Like so this also, like I hope like definitely it will be help me to improve my marketing skills. Like so this way also I feel like if I improve my marketing skill, then like I can somehow over ride this financial crisis which happened like during this few months. Like and and also like being a part of like now I am also a virtual incubator in CIC. So and like this also gives me an opportunity to know what all the things happening. Like because they constantly like tell this funding has been arranged by BERAC and this is done by like some other agencies. Like constantly like some advertisements are coming. Like so this also like being a part of an incubator also helps you like to like to increase your visibility, because they also advertise your company. So you are also like your company also like exhibited without knowingly. Like so and then like part of incubator also increase your credibility, I feel like because since you belong to a like a center, like people who the customers will think that all the like laboratory maintenance, all these things will be like much more than an individual company. And then I feel like it also like feels like that you are not alone. If I am like alone at a different place having a company, I may not be able to share like my experience, like or like get their experience, like their losses and their successes, like how they feel about it. So it also gives a place like for you to share the things, like this digital cafe. Like I think like being a part of an incubator, you attend the event and then like like some opportunities arise here, and like some other things like which you are not aware, like that this also can be a business. Those kind of things also like we will get to know. So this is the like apart from that, like yeah, regular, as usual, everybody faces this financial crisis, like the EB bill, the rent, like for the people, the employees, we have to pay all these things, like also like is definitely everybody will be facing this kind of difficulties, I guess. Like, so for me, like definitely like co-sharing the space with another company, like reduce me the cost for the rent and those rent, electricity and those stuff. And then like definitely I also feel that we should have our company as close to your house, because now I feel like even though the things like are opened up, but without public transport, still like I am like 1 hour, like to reach my workplace it takes 1 hour, like. So everyday commuting is like is bit tough for me. So I feel like once we are starting your own business means like it's better to like have your workplace as close to your home. And yeah, and then workers also you select very close to your the working place. And uh, like I feel like creating the team is also very important, like slowly like select your people. And more than intelligence, like like we have to add people who are sincere in your team. So um, yeah, these all the things which I would like to share actually, like as a company, like when you want to start, like first start small. And then like if you have the options to join as an incubator, like join like the incubation centers, because then we don't have to invest on your infrastructure, because most of the things would have been done by the incubation center itself. And then like it gives credibility to your business, and it gives visibility to your business, and you have people to share your feeling, because being in the pyramid, the edge of the pyramid, you feel the loneliness, right? This kind of loneliness, I think this incubation center helps you a lot, like because you discuss with people their downs and ups. And then and then the regulatory aspects and the IPR things, like all these things also, because they will conduct like several workshops, you will get to know the things. And then if other company this that did something, then you will also gain the knowledge, okay, this way like I should be very careful in like when I am like doing in that way. So these kind of things help you as an incubator. And financial crisis, like when you move out and then you want to start your own company, see people with complementary skills, whether it would be able to join as a company and then start join like join together and start a company. This way like your infrastructure cost and the maintenance cost will be like reduced. And yeah, be very careful in selecting your team. And yeah, definitely founding a company gives a valuable opportunity to build our dreams. It can be don't it doesn't matter, like it may be a small or a big dream, but we know that we personally make a difference to the society. So finally I would like to say, do not let your dreams be dreams. So yeah, uh, and all the best for all the future entrepreneurs or the current entrepreneurs. Thanks a lot for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I welcome Ms. Anmol Saxena to speak on the upsides and downsides of the lockdown. Over to you, ma'am.
Hi team. So you can hear me, right? I'm audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay. Okay. So hello. Thank you everybody for joining in and for giving us this opportunity to talk about our experience through this lockdown. My name is Anmol Saxena. I am the CEO and co-founder of a startup called Ashwa Wearable Technologies. We are incubated at VIT TBI in the VIT University, Vellore. And basically, our startup is a wearables and data sciences company. We are mainly focusing on skeletal-muscular injuries and the problems that come chronic or acute with it. Right. So our vision for, or rather our mission for starting this company is, has been for the last 1.5 years that we've been here, is to decentralize and democratize world-class physiotherapy to masses of people at affordable cost. And towards this mission, we have developed a wearable technology solution called FitKnees. So this is basically a device which helps in monitoring the progress of physiotherapy patients specific to knee osteoarthritis while they're undergoing physiotherapy. The device is basically a wearable device that you can strap around your knee joint, on your thigh, and on your shin. It monitors a couple of parameters like range of motion, muscle strength, balance, gait analysis of the entire lower body extremities, etc. But beyond the in-clinic experience that you get with this wearable technology, it is also supported by a mobile phone application, which you can take home. And if you are, let's say, a busy individual or an elderly patient who cannot continuously walk into the clinic or hospital for the physiotherapy, it enables video consultations, personalized experience, exercise charts, as well as your progress monitoring inside the comfort of your home. So with that, what I'll start, I'll probably tell you about what has happened for our company in the last couple of weeks through this COVID lockdown. So initially, the lockdown was definitely, it was not a sudden thing for us, because we remember back on 22nd January this year, there was an announcement in Wuhan that there is going to be a complete lockdown. And then, of course, over the next couple of weeks, there were developments happening in Italy. We started hearing about news from Spain in the increasing number of rise of this COVID virus being spread throughout. Fortunately, that was the time in January when we had decided to also start our development work on the telemedical app, the FitKnees app that provides video consultations at home. So that kind of gave us a space, or a breathing space, to start working on a technology on a full-fledged mode, where we kind of had an understanding. We were also listening to experts and news channels saying that this will definitely affect globally, and this will definitely cause similar sort of situations of lockdown in India itself as well. So come March, we, of course, India, there was a nationwide declaration of the lockdown, and that is where we found an opportunity to start commercializing our our telemedicine or telerehabilitation app with some pilot group of customers and physiotherapists in Bangalore itself. And so far, we have had quite a good result. So we have around 95 users on our application. We have 8 strategic hospital and clinic tie-ups where physiotherapists every day on a day-to-day basis, we have 10 to 12 consultations on the app. It is small, but it's growing. So there are pros and cons of this entire COVID for our startup, of course. The pros being that this gave us an opportunity to not only immediately commercialize our mobile application, which we would have otherwise commercialized only after we had the clinical trials of a device. This also started a cash flow for us. That was a big upside. It gave us an opportunity to understand how work from home would work in, or how digital, working would actually go, be useful in terms of saving revenue. This revenue that we spend on office spaces or on traveling, the time that we spend on traveling, all these have been really cut short drastically, and so we have seen a lot of productivity from our team members. It also is very excellent. It's an excellent thing for my co-founder Sandeep. So he is the CTO of our company, and he's a night owl. Most of his team members that he has recruited for the tech development are all night owls, and it's been a delight for them, because otherwise we were forcing them to kind of come in the morning during the office hours and leave in the evening. So it's been quite a delight for them. Of course, the time that we have been saving more on the tech side, the people who had been working on tech, they are now relatively free because there's no scope for R&D in hardware. So they have been, really utilizing this time and this free time to start learning new skills, to start honing their existing skills, to become more to gather more information on the latest technologies and start using those softwares as well. There even the rooms that we have, so we stay. We're all in our hometowns right now. All of our team members. We are a team of 5 people full time, and then we are supported by a team of college engineering students and management students, of course, from IIM. And all of us have kind of taken to this one protocol of using something called an Eisenhower's matrix. So this matrix is all up on our wall, and this tool is, unanimously being used across all the team members, where everybody kind of takes, has a brainstorming session with their teams, with their sub-teams every week. They categorize the work, any new idea, any new feature that has to be put onto the app, or any new, data analysis or machine learning algorithm that has to be implemented, the way the data has to be collected. It's all categorized into urgent, not urgent, important, not important. And then it's, everybody is kind of really learning how to use this tool very well. So that's, something that also we were able to kind of inculcate, like a new culture or a new productivity tool that we all have adapted to. Of course, a lot of our team members have been telling me that because they are in the comfort of their home, they're also able to have more peace, more quiet, more calm, less distractions, and therefore they're able to really focus better on their work as well. And then everybody is very happy about the fact that they are able to spend more time with their family or their pets or their, their friends or in the building, neighbors or whatever, because they have been away from home for a very long time, for many years. In fact, after graduation, they had all gone to different cities. Then they had come to Ashwa to work, and now they are finally able to spend some quality time with the family. The cons of this is, of course, it has been emotionally burdensome because after some point of time, you're really enclosed in 4 walls, and at the end of the day, it kind of starts affecting you mentally. So there's burden and monotony. It is also sometimes difficult to coordinate with, for me especially, to coordinate with my tech team because they are all night owls and early risers. So it's difficult for me to ensure that we find a common time to have a brainstorming sessions or coordinate and work together. For hardware, especially when it comes to PCB development or prototyping on the product form factors, it is not a good situation to be in. All the workload is just going to that one person, that one team member who has the RPS, the vortexes, the the DSO, the 3D printer in their home. It's all going on that one poor person. So it's not an ideal situation to be in. And of course, for us, our products are a very big, it has been seeing a very big delay in the clinical trials. We had already applied and got approvals to start the clinical trials in April, and that now has tentatively shifted up 3, 4, 5, 6 months, who knows. So one very big thing that we faced during the pandemic was a very higher cash burn rate. So almost immediately we had to monetize the Cure app. We had to, or the fitness Tele app. We had to start recruiting people for digital marketing, for some amount of commission, and all those things had to go into customer acquisition cost for uptake of our platform, and that we saw a sudden rise in burn rate. We were of course fortunate to secure a BIRAC seed fund in December, and in call 15 of the BIG Big Call, we were granted the big grant also through the IKP Incubation Center in Hyderabad. So we were fortunate to have some cash reserves. But then what we immediately did was, earlier we were going very aggressively towards clinical trials, and therefore we had hired a lot of experts, industry experts, as consultants to start building a cloud backend, to start building our security and encryption, to write our codes as per HIPAA compliances. Because of this lockdown, we saw a lot of graduates, freshers, getting off the, they either their internship or employment jobs were being retrieved, or their, experienced people, even our classmates, were losing jobs and they were being laid off. So we were really able to kind of have a win-win situation where we invited them to come be a part of our team for the next 3 or 6 months, pay them significantly less stipend, pay our existing consultants on per hour basis for guiding on how that particular work or how that particular tech module has to be developed. And then we were able to see a lot of reduction in cash flow. At the same time, we were helping, basically leveraging the gig economy to help slow down our cash rate. Also helping while at the, all this while helping the other person who's coming onto our team continue building their skills, their profiles, and not getting a pause in between. So that is a few things that we did to stop our cash flow. Of course, at the top level, we are 4 people, the 2 co-founders and 2 of our mentors who take significant salary. So all of us have taken a 25% cut from our salary. We've not done the same for our for the other team members who are not top level management, because we need their support now more than ever, of course. And yes, what some of the suggestions that we have through this is, of course, during this, mental health is of key importance. There have been a lot of webinars on this as well. One thing that really worked for our team members was have internal discussions, keep sharing the experiences, keep talking about any issues or any problems or any brain freezes that we are facing, and then kind of talk or help or do some activities that can help others out of it. The second thing is to conserve cash rate. Whenever there's a recession, a lot of experts say that the rule of thumb is leverage the gig economy, and that really helped us a lot. That has been helping us conserve our cash a lot. So definitely look at other options than full-time employees or very expensive expert consultants doing your projects. The third thing is this situation is going to affect our, I can speak for healthcare because that's where I've been researching a lot in the last couple of weeks. So in healthcare, it's going to really affect our industry for a very, very long period of time. It's literally changing the way people are perceiving and consuming healthcare. So there are a lot of opportunities in telemedicine, in data-driven, wearable, technology-supported healthcare, and that is some opportunities that we can start leveraging. Digital health is coming sooner than we actually anticipated. And then, of course, the last thing is when it comes to your networking, this is not a bad thing. The lockdown is not a place or an event which is actually hampering our networking with people. So unlike normal circumstances where we used to go to conferences or we used to go to meetups and we used to network with people, that's not possible now. But what is possible now is just picking up the phone, talking to those people who you haven't spoken to in a lot of, in a long period of time, having deeper, more meaningful relationships with them. That actually beared amazing fruits for us. We have a chief medical officer on board on our team now because through the last 2 months, we have been talking to him. He's the chief of rehabilitation at a very big hospital in Bangalore. And now he's our chief scientific and medical officer. And that is the power of, inculcating, leveraging this free time to talk to them, have deeper, meaningful relationships with them, and then kind of seeing how you can grow your business together with them and align your interests. So with that, I'll close my talk. And thank you very much, HTIC, for giving me this opportunity to share my experience and talk about what has been happening. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So the floor is open to all now. Requesting everybody to come up with your questions or any discussions or any suggestions that you would like to provide to others.
So I have a question. At HTIC, what are some of the technologies that, or what are some of the domains that you have observed coming up and being accepted in the market?
Hello. Hi, Anmol.
Hi, Pratishtha.
Hi. Thank you for volunteering to be a part of this digital cafe. So, to answer your question, we've seen that a lot of startups have actually tried to extend their solutions to devising something that can be helped during COVID times, like telemedicine, things like that. But we've also seen some really interesting ways how people are trying to develop solutions for startup through WhatsApp or through like WhatsApp telecommunication or teleconsulting. We have a lot of solutions for ventilators, diagnostics. People are also starting to develop a lot of reagents and kits for antibody testing. So we were also part of the satellite center for Kavach. So we saw very interesting ideas in four predominant areas. One was drugs, vaccines, diagnostics, disinfectants, sanitizers, and we also saw some interesting ideas in ventilation innovation. So these are the four main areas that the government has been supporting, and we've also seen some increase that way. People are coming up with a lot of disinfectants and anti gloves. So those are the new entries that we've got at HTIC. Uh, this is what we have seen at HTIC. Over to the others to share what kind of innovation they have been coming across the last few weeks or rather months. I see a lot of other startups also. If you guys wanted to share your experience on how you guys have been coping up with the lockdown, coordinating with your team, or coming up with solutions to cater to the COVID times. Anybody? I know it's Friday evening. All of y'all must be waiting to uh, enjoy a weekend, but we can have a speakeasy conversation just to understand how you guys are dealing with things.
Pratishtha, what did you ask? I couldn't follow.
Yes, Rahul?
I couldn't follow. What did you ask?
No, I was actually trying to ask if you could share. We've heard from you, Rahul, but yeah, anybody who's willing to or share again what you guys have been going through, anything new that you have seen the last few years, any innovation that you have come across that might be helpful, that can be implemented by startups, you could share on this platform. And also what you might want to see in the upcoming cafes, also you can share.
Hello.
Yes, Yash, go ahead.
Hi. My question is to Anmol. So I just wanted to know that you mentioned about a pilot project using your telemedicine application. So can you just maybe highlight one or two points in detail that how exactly does it work?
Yes, so certainly. May I just know your name? I see C3 MedTech.
Yes, I'm Yash, by the way.
Yash. Okay. Hi, Yash.
Hi.
So our telemedicine app is basically an intellectual property of our now Chief Scientific Officer, Dr.
Okay.
Padmanabhan. He has made a algorithm for a 5-layer algorithm. Basically, when a patient comes onto a telemedicine app, the very first instinct is to self-assess. So this IP, or rather this algorithm helps the patient self-assess and come to a possible diagnosis scenario. From there, the diagnosis is handed over to the physician, where they can connect via our application to the appropriate physician. They can take video consultations alongside the normal app-based consultations that they have been already taking. And then they will be given a treatment protocol. There's another methodology for which we have started some progress monitoring using videography from your smartphone, cell phone. We were not able to do that with the wearable. Of course, wearable is more accurate and more precise. So that's where we would be headed. But right now it's being done through a smartphone camera. And then through that, the physician is able to track the progress and the correctness of your posture, etc. There are week-over-week follow-ups that you can do through the platform. So there are these 5 stages of consultation that we have incorporated into this tele-rehabilitation app.
Okay, so basically the wearable tech which you're making, so your end customer is a consumer or is it a doctor or a hospital?
Okay, this is a very business distinct question. I'll touch upon it in a very high level.
Just
so
to
that it's
understand,
relevant.
so the reason to ask the question was, as you mentioned, that you get the data from the patient. So that's why I was wondering. So we are also developing a telemedicine application. So we make ophthalmology devices. So
Yes, yes.
basically, smartphone plus our device, you can take images of the eye, and with the eye image, the doctor can diagnose and give a basic idea of what is wrong with your eye, what's the
Right.
condition. So what we are planning to do is we are doing a home care service in collaboration with ophthalmologists. So they will use my machine. The hospital will use my machine to take the images, and that's how you will be able to give service to the patient at home, and they don't need to come to the hospital. And especially we are doing this for follow-up patients
Yes,
who've had
yes.
surgeries or any kind of treatment within the past 3 or 4 months prior to COVID. So that's the reason I was asking you whether it's the customer
Okay.
or it's the
Definitely. So this is very similar to our business model
yeah,
as well
that's
for physiotherapy, right?
yes,
Right.
yes.
So yes, I mean I get the spark or the similarities in the business model. The thing is, what we have found so far with the 90 users on board is that the first thing is to tie up with the medical with the clinicians themselves. Once you tie with the clinicians, they being your customer, of course, you have to clearly tell them the value proposition, more number of patients that they'll see. In our case, we have seen almost 40% rise of the number of patients who have been taking consultation from the same physiotherapist, right? So that is a very clear value proposition that you can kind of talk to them about. And then for the patient, once you have your clinical tie-ups on your platform, that is when you can start looking at reaching out to the patient. The very first few patients that would come onto your platform would essentially be the existing patients of your clinicians who you've tied up with.
Exactly.
And then either you do word of mouth, or right now in this scenario, digital marketing is going to be extremely effective. So even our next step is a digital marketing where we have made an archetype of our customer. An archetype means basically who's your customer, who is directly going to influence them, who's indirectly going to influence them, who has the purchasing power, what is their age, gender, economic bracket, etc. So you make your customer archetype, and then you start doing a digital marketing, digital marketing campaign directed towards your customer. and bring them onto the platform. So that's going to go like a cycle. You bring the more number of customers on the platform, more number of clinicians get attracted. More clinicians get attracted, more customers get attracted. So that's the kind of thing you do. And then I think circling back to your question on who you're collecting the data from, it is definitely from the patient that you will have to collect the data from.
Okay.
And at that point of time, that is where your HIPAA compliances and all, if you can bring them in upfront into your telemedical platform, if you can tell them that there is HIPAA compliance and tell them in the sense, tell the clinicians that I'm going to collect data from your patients, but then we are a HIPAA compliant platform, we have encryption and security systems in place. And if you can give them the certification, I think that's going to be more valuable for the clinicians to allow you to take the data from the patient.
Okay, thanks. So I just wanted to give you a suggestion on digital marketing of what we are planning to do. So
Yes.
instead of Facebook, Instagram, or any of those social platforms, we have identified a few ophthalmology journals which are subscribed and read by almost every ophthalmologist or eye hospitals all over India. And the journal is basically from the Indian Ophthalmology Society. So if you can find out something in your area, maybe related to physiotherapy or a national magazine or any kind of newspaper, I wouldn't say, but any kind of digital medical place where you can market, it would have a better impact compared to the social media sites. That's what I personally think. So just a suggestion.
Thank you so
Is
much
that
for this.
Krish? Sorry, is that Yash?
Yes.
So I have one point on it. So how do you come across with the conflicts of interest? Because are you going to fund this study and are you going to publish your data in these ophthalmology-based journals?
No. So
Or are
basically,
you
it's not
just being
data.
a part away from the study, or how is it?
No. It's so basically, I'll just clarify. It's not a study or it's not any kind of data or study we are going to post. It's basically a paid advertisement. The way you pay for Instagram and Facebook ads, and
Got it.
sometimes you are not able to reach the desired people through those mediums. So this is also a paid advertisement, but it's going to be seen by the end customer. You don't have to pay for of that.
Yep.
So I think that would increase maybe your chances or increase your presence.
No, but
Hello.
adding one point, as we are now talking more about the journal, I would stress maybe if some of them are doing some, even Saxena has also mentioned about some studies earlier. It's also a good idea to actually
Yeah.
conduct a study, publish your product as an existing, off-label use product, and
Yeah,
saying that there
absolutely.
is such a product available. It's
Yeah.
also a very good means of
Yeah.
in the clinical medical field. This is a
Field.
very good systematic way of letting the people in the world know, the target users know that there is such a device existing.
Yes, so absolutely. So we have already published presentations and papers in conferences and in these journals. So that is more on the I would say academic side. So that we collaborate with the doctors which use our device, and we do a study of how useful these things can be and the data as well. So that is from the academic point of view. So this journal advertisement which I'm pointing out to is purely from a marketing and sales perspective, as conferences, and you won't be able to go to different hospitals and doctors door to door marketing. So this would be a way as a purely like an advertisement play, digital advertisement.
Okay.
I'm an
I have one question
ophthalmologist.
to. Okay.
Can I have a
Sorry.
question? I'm an ophthalmologist. Can I ask him a question?
Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Thank you. I'm an ophthalmologist. I'm Dr. Sheila Jan. I'm in Shankar Netralaya.
Yeah, ma'am. We met at the BioNest incubator, if you remember.
Yeah, right. Basically, you had said telemedicine and ophthalmology. Are you able to get fundus images as well as slit lamp images?
Yes, ma'am. So basically, both of our devices, one is a portable slit lamp, and second is a smartphone fundus attachment. So you will be able to get both a slit image as well as a fundus image. But both of them are different devices.
No, it is attached to a slit lamp. I mean, it is attached to a phone, both the devices.
Yes, both devices are attached to a phone.
Android or iPhone?
Ma'am, any phone will work. We are an open phone system.
Okay. And the patient will be able to use in their house?
So, ma'am, what we are planning to do right now is the reason we are collaborating with hospitals and eye clinics in Ahmedabad. So, I'm basically companies based out of Ahmedabad in Gujarat. So, the optometrist can go to the patient's house and collect the images, because the patient would not know what to do with the image or what would be the implication of taking the image. So the reason I'm mentioning this is because we are planning to start with follow-up patients. So the patients who have undergone any kind of treatment or surgery in the past 2 or 3 months prior to COVID, they have missed, or they might have missed their follow-up appointment with the ophthalmologist. So this is mainly targeted to them who are above the age of maybe 60, have some kind of condition like diabetes, and they have not been able to follow up. So we are planning to start this service for them initially, so that they can get their eyes checked at the convenience of their home without being afraid of getting the infection.
That's a good idea, but only thing is visual acuity, checking vision is also a very important criteria.
Yes.
In a patient. Do you have something for that?
So, ma'am, not at the moment. We don't have a portable auto ref or.
No. Vision testing is only a vision chart. Many vision charts are available on mobile phones.
Okay. So, ma'am, we can incorporate that as a part of the home care.
Because visual improvement is what everyone wants. The end result. See, whether it's fundus image or anything, from the patient's point of view, they'll want their vision tested. They want to know whether they've improved or follow up. No? That's the most important thing. That they're able to see better or not.
Yes.
And all that. There are many platforms which are available developed by other people and available on the phone, because each letter has to be at one size and everything.
So the visual acuity chart you are mentioning, right?
Because patient's main thing is only whether my vision is improved or not.
Absolutely.
So that you have to input.
Yeah, thank you for the suggestion. We'll definitely take that into consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question to Saxena. If I may ask, are you there?
Yes, sir, please.
So you had mentioned, I wanted to make it clear if you had mentioned that you had an idea of stopping the clinical studies or trials, but I'm just recapping the concept which you said your device will be a very safe class 1 medical device, if I'm right.
Yes.
So what made you decide so that you wanted to not continue any clinical studies, which would also be a good idea if we go very deeper into your case. What made you do that?
So we need data from the field for our ML models. So the clinical trials was an essential part to get that data collected and then train our ML models and thereby deploy it in our devices as well. And that is mainly why we had to kind of stop. That was one of the reasons. The second, obviously, being that we have integrated multiple machines into a single wearable device, and the efficacy of that needs to be measured. So is it reliable inter and intra-operator or inter and intra-days? Is it really reliable? Is it, all these different parameters, is it accurate? All those things also have to be tested before we can actually claim that the device works. And since that all data is not available for our statistical analysis, most of the hospitals and doctors would essentially be discouraged to purchase the device, immediately.
So which I understand, which means you're trying to put equivalence. So do you have a reference
gold standard
where you're comparing?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
what is the key principle clinical indicator are you trying to measure? I don't know. I don't get that point very clearly.
It is efficacy, where within efficacy there are 5 parameters: precision, accuracy, reliability, effectiveness. So there are some 2 other parameters as well. So it is efficacy at the end of the day of the device, that it works in coherence with the gold standard, and that is the whole target of the clinical trial. this is basically a device where even we have seen through the pilot studies that even 1 degree lag in your knees can cause or can be a root cause of your knee pain. Even 1 degree even 10 newtons strength compared to your normative population data can be the cause of your root cause of your knee pain. Now, if that is the case, our accuracy has to be that, and the resolution of the device has to be that accurate. And if that has to be established, it can be established through biostatistical data, and that is what we are lacking right now. So it is at the end of the day data for us that we are lacking, data for our ML and data for our clinical efficacy.
Okay, so then it is not really a clinical trial because if I say, technically, you're trying to collect data from the clinical settings or a clinical site for your ML algorithms, if I'm right.
I think we could take this offline. If we take it offline, you'll understand the ML that I'm talking about. It is not directly related with this. There is another study that we have to establish. So there is a small slight difference, but yes, it is at the end of the day data collection again for the statistical analysis and for some ML as well.
Thanks.
Hi, this is Jilma here. So my question is to Anmol. Hello.
Sure. Yes. Hi, Jilma.
It was a very nice talk. I have a lot of things to learn from you, is what I understand. So we have a startup called Cosmosis in Pune, and we are working on cancer screening and. So my question is like a very HR related. You can still lockdown, everybody's from. You also mentioned that you were able to recruit and not work on their. So how do you manage the manage also? So you require a lot of training, and so how do you carry training on?
Jilma, your voice is cracking in between. Actually, I think we could not catch you.
Okay. Yeah. So are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi. So so what I wanted to ask is that you said that you were recruiting many freshers and people who are not currently occupied in work, and how do you actually manage all? So freshers actually require a lot of training before they become really they contribute to your company. So how do you manage training online, and how do you make sure that the timeline is met?
Right. So on the training and timeline, our key answer has been consultants. As I've mentioned earlier, we were working with industry experts to develop our tech modules. Now we have been paying them on per-hour basis. So I'll pick up Cloud Backend, for example. The consultant who we were working with, instead of paying him a monthly retainership to complete the backend module, now what we're doing is we are paying him just 3,000 per week for 1 hour of his time. And he is training the freshers so that they are quickly getting, instead of having to search all around the internet for how to build this or how to do this or how to debug this, they immediately get the structure from him directly, and then they have to go implement. That is how we have been training and also managing our timeline. Timelines is definitely taking a hit. It's not going as smoothly and as quickly as it would otherwise with the consultant. If a consultant would take 10 hours, the freshers are taking 20 to 25 hours. Yes. But then at the end of the day, they are free the whole day. So they are able to effectively produce the work in the same number of days as an expert.
Okay. And I also understand that your BIG project is currently going on.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have particular milestones for the BIT project? Yeah, so because of COVID, like, have you shifted your milestones? Like, maybe I think your clinical trials and all must have been part of your milestone. So since
Definitely.
you are not
Yes.
able to do that, so there would have been some shift in your actual work plan.
So the thing is, we actually got BIG only this year in March in the round call 15.
Okay.
So our BIG has not started yet. It is a safety net for us right now in terms of the fact that yes, it will come when we need it to come. That is for the clinical trial data collection part of things.
Yeah.
But it has not started yet. So we are still trying to survive on our seed funds.
Okay,
So milestones and all is not being put under question. And of course, going by our previous experience with BIRAC and with the incubators that are our funders, that have been our funders for such grants, we know for a fact that they will obviously understand and they'll obviously help us adjust the milestones according to the situation. Because it is something that's not in our control. So, of course, what else can we do?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this is what I wanted to ask. So
Did you get the BIG as well this year, like this call?
no. So my I got BIG in the 10th call. So my BIG. So I think you're changing your work plan a little bit has actually helped you during this time, is what I understand.
So far, yes.
Yeah. So that is a very good thing. Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. Is there anything that you maybe have done in the last 2 months that worked well for you? Did not work in your favor?
Yes, so I'll just tell you what actually we do. We are developing a medical device to detect cancer from X-ray test. So mainly our work is also lab-based, purely lab-based, as Dr. Saumini was mentioning. So like the shutdown, after the shutdown, we are actually thinking how we can do lab work. There is like lot of pending work that is there is lot of work that is pending. So what we did is that we started some simulations. We started doing some simulation experimental simulations using our laptops, and I think we learned a lot. Different ways on how you can reduce your timeline of actual lab related work, and some simulation work to reduce our work. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Dilma.
Yeah. So things that we are learning a lot of new things on how to manage work other than going to lab and carrying out actual lab work. So we are still exploring. I hope it turns out to be better. Once other than that, we are able to work on our software part and some basic PCB designing and all that. But again, the main work is not happening. So I think 2 months has been a real, our work has really got hit. It's not going at the pace that we are planning to go at. Yeah. So I think my questions answered, and I have also shared what I have faced during this lockdown.
Definitely. Thank you, Jilma. And also for PCBs, you can explore a few softwares for simulations. There are quite a few with media graphics, with where you can even get a real world predictive modeling done, and it's quite simple to use as well.
Okay.
So if you need for that, you can definitely explore media graphics. It's a very good tool.
Okay, great.
And thank you so much for sharing your experience as well.
Yeah, and thank you so much for your, and also thank you to the HPIC team for organizing this. I think so we are not in a room interacting with each other. Still, I feel that some networking is happening here. So I think this has been really helpful. Thank you,
ma'am. Thank you. So in the interest of time, we will have to wrap it up now, and we can pick up the conversation next Friday. And next Thursday, we've got a session named Ask Me Anything on Funding by Mr. Nitin Deshmukh, where you can come up with any questions on the topic and clarify your doubts. So it was nice having you all here on the Friday eve. Thank you all for your participation. This session will be conducted every Friday, and if anybody is interested in volunteering to be the speaker for the upcoming weeks, kindly reach out to our team. I'll post my mail ID on the chat box. You can reach out to us. Thank you all for your participation and have a happy weekend.